Hi, I'm Mrs. Scarpetta. I teach art at Fox Hill. Today we're going to start some pictures of castles. We're going to use basic geometric shapes like squares, rectangles, and triangles, and then use some creative problem solving to arrange those shapes to create a picture of a castle. Next week, we'll place our castles in a landscape and add some details. So let's get started. Since we're working on the castle today, I just wanted to show you some pictures of castles so that you can get ideas. And as we look at these, I really want you to look and see how they're really big, basic shapes. This entire castle is made up out of almost entirely rectangles. This one is rectangles with some triangles on top. Most castles have something on top called battlements. And that is these things up on top. And that's something that I want you to make sure you put in your artwork. I'll show you an easy way to do it later. But that really makes your artwork look like a castle. So I want you to make sure that you include some of these battlements in your work. So I'm just going to click on a few more of these so you can get some ideas. And we're going to start off by really focusing on doing big, basic shapes. Okay, we're actually going to start off by cutting some of our shapes together. I want you to have some good, big geometric shapes to use. So go ahead and pick up your paper and scissors and cut along with me. I want you to start off by just cutting a straight line right up one part of your paper to cut off a nice big rectangle. That's a good big shape for us to start using. You can change these shapes later, but I want you to start off with some big basic shapes. And then let's repeat that step. In about the same and cut another nice big rectangle. I want you to start off with big shapes. Try to keep things as big as the size of your hand or bigger. Remember, if you chop up your paper into little pieces, you can't uncut it. You can always cut more later, but you can't uncut. So that's why we're starting big. Now let's take one of these rectangles and cut a square out of it. So I'm just going to measure about how tall it is and come over that far to cut this into a square. Remember, a square is the same length on all sides, so that's why I want to kind of measure. And then the same thing again. You may have a perfect square. If you don't, trim it till you do. And this is probably about as small as we want to get for now. I don't want any shapes much smaller than that. Now, please take one of your squares and we're going to cut that into two triangles. So, start by holding it by the corner, and we're going to cut from corner to corner. So I'm going to line my scissors up right here on this bottom corner and cut straight up to the top corner. And that will give me some triangles to work with. Once you get your big basic shapes cut, then I just want you to start moving these around, kind of do some problem solving and figure out how you can arrange these to start making it look like a castle. You will need to go in and cut some more, but I want you to start off nice and big. Obviously, I don't need a shape this big, so I can start cutting and making shapes out of it and rearranging it. And when I start finding castle parts that I like I think this looks good here, then I can start gluing it together. So just a dot, not a lot. Especially since we're not gluing onto a background paper, we need to be careful that we don't use too much glue. And if we accidentally do use too much glue, and we have glue that squishes out, we need to just make sure we use our next piece of paper to wipe that off so that it will dry and not stick to somebody else's castle. So I'm going to continue rearranging my shapes to form a castle. I can still cut a little bit more and glue as I start building and finding things that I like. I'll speed it up so it goes a little bit quicker. Okay, I've used up most of my paper, and I want to make sure I add some battlements because that really makes it look like a castle. So what you can do for battlements is just cut some small squares or rectangles and glue them right along the top of a straight edge of your artwork. So I have a nice edge up here. That way I don't have to try and cut that castle line. I can just glue some simple shapes. And then your goal is to try and use your entire piece of gray paper. So if you have little pieces like this left over, see if you can fit them in and figure out something else that you can do with it. I might add some more triangles over here so we don't have a lot of waste. I want you to have a nice big castle. Once you get done gluing a big part of your castle together, make sure you turn it over, put your name and your class, whichever class you're in, on the back. If you have any extra glue, wipe that off. And I'm going to figure out what I want to do with this last piece. And then you're ready for next week.